Today we're diving into 7 lyrics that hit like philosophy, just without the waffle, the jargon or the headache. It's like the melody is a Trojan horse carrying unexpected wisdom into your subconscious. So why not make it conscious by picking at the words like the comprehension vulture that I am? As the lyrics I've picked are as profound as they are succinct, they don't need the context of the song to understand them. I know that sounds like a cop-out for doing research, who knows, maybe it is. Take it up with my subconscious. Oh, and I'm bound to miss some gems, so feel free to send me in the direction of some other profound lyrics in the comments. Anyway, enough rambling, let's get to the first one on the list, Neil Young with his heavy line from the song On the Beach.
Though my problems are meaningless, that don't make them go away.
The first time I heard this line, it hit me like I'd been waterboarded with Red Bull. I was caught up in a loop of discontent, stressing about things that didn't deserve attention and simultaneously painfully aware of how trivial my worries were. But as Neil concurs, that awareness isn't enough to make them go away. That's why hearing someone say, "What have you got to worry about? Just be happy," or "Think about people with less who are happier than you," makes you wish there was an eject button to exit the conversation. But who am I kidding? I know I've pulled the "but there are African people starving" card before. An extra layer of truth to Neil's line is how, if anything, realising that your problems are meaningless makes sinking into them regardless feel even worse because of the guilt that comes from their triviality, knowing that deep down you shouldn't be affected by them. It makes you feel like you're a defected unit who isn't programmed to feel content, only picking out problems no matter your situation, like an emotionally masochistic Robocop built to suffer. Even if you were in heaven itself, you'd say it was too crowded. So if we can't miraculously be happy from knowing how meaningless our problems are, what else can we do? Well, if the answer was simple, we'd all be high on happiness like we're in pluribus. But what can help is to tap into the universality of suffering, ideally going deeper than your own suffering. I don't know about you, but when I'm stuck in the quicksand of my thought, that's a Bowie line by the way, the moment I whack on a war film or show, their bleak situation dilutes any of my worries. I mean, how can I start stressing about the YouTube algorithm when I'm looking at soldiers in a bunker freezing their balls off? I know they're actors in this case, but still. Sounds like I'm back on the guilt train, right? Imagining a soldier looking down at my trivial pain, but for me, the absurdity of coming to that realisation while sitting on my beanbag chair watching Band of Brothers supersedes that guilt. Anyway, that's a sad insight into my evenings you didn't ask for, so let's move on. Now, I might be turning into the just be happy people I ridiculed earlier with this next line, but I think understanding it can help you to snap out of getting worked up over trivial matters. It's by David Byrne from the Talking Heads song This Must Be the Place. I'm sure you already know it, but let's listen anyway.
Home is where I want to be, but I guess I'm already there. I come home, she lifted up her wings. I guess this must be the place.
I'm hesitant to explain this one too much as it's open to interpretation. I mean, if you go off the live performance, you'd think it was about Byrne's oddly intimate relationship with a lamp. What we do know is it's a love song, and with this verse I picked out, he's comforted by finding shelter in her wings, feeling protected, and so he can finally put his guard down and call off the never-ending search for home. I say never-ending as we can go our whole life longing for that final home on the horizon, never realising we're already there. Then, before we've had time to savour it, it's passed us by. With Byrne realising he's already home, his appreciation of his present fortune means he has no interest in searching for more. But getting to a state of content is harder to get to than it seems. If you're struggling to get there, this Cat Stevens lyric might help. Don't worry, I won't butcher it, take it away.
But take your time, think a lot. Why, think of everything you've got. For you will still be here tomorrow, but your dreams may not.
It's in our wirings not to be content with our immediate surroundings, always seeking something that we don't have. It was essential for our survival when we were chimps swinging in the jungle, but now that we can order a filet mignon on Uber Eats, there's less of a need for it. But our chimp side of our brains still haven't turned off that survival switch, and it needs to be manually turned off so we can recognise when we've found the right place. However, sometimes you outgrow your surroundings, and the home you're in is no longer the place for you. This is where the next line comes in from the Nobel Prize no-show Bob Dylan, from his song The Times They Are A-Changin'. Where Byrne gets us back in sync with the present, Bob sits on the other side of the fence, reminding us to not get stuck in the same spot if it becomes stagnant. Let's have a listen.
If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone.
Maybe it's because I see philosophy in everything, but I find his lyrics resemble the outline of a philosophical argument, or rather logical questions that follow from one another, and this one's no different. It reads almost like a flowchart that starts with a question that you have to accept. Is your time to you worth saving? Of course it is, your life's a one-way ticket to ride, as the Beatles say. So if that's true, should you A, swim, meaning move with the ever-changing current, or B, stay stuck to the spot and sink like a stone?
B, please, is my final answer.
Up next is Led Zeppelin's song That's the Way, with what I think is Robert Plant's best written verse. To give you a crumb of context, the song was originally titled The Boy Next Door, and it's about Plant cutting ties with his friend because of their differing views, which his mum thinks is a bad influence on him. Let's listen to some of the second verse, which I think is the most profound.
And all the fish that lay in dirty water dying, had they got you hypnotized? I don't know what to say about it when all your ears have turned away.
Starting with the first two lines, the fish in the dirty water refers to the bitter people from the older generations who have polluted their surroundings with negative views on the world. With Plant seeing their influence as contagious, he asks his friend if they have infected his mind and got him hypnotised. Now maybe it's the use of the second person of you or listening to it with noise cancelling headphones, but when I hear this line it feels like Plant's in my head warning me to not fall victim to the same trap. After all, being around negativity really is contagious. If you stay in a toxic friend group long enough, you can get swept up in that reality and lose yourself in it. After a while, you can get used to anything, to quote the philosopher Camus, and so you can normalise the most toxic environments. We might not see how something is negatively harming us because the feeling has been normalised by our memorisation of the environment we're in. Onto the other two lines, Plant wants to get through to his friend, but he doesn't know what to say because all of his ears have turned away. He's gone too far, so his words will fall on deaf ears. We all know someone who's gone too deep in a rabbit hole and lost their mind. Voicing any criticism only makes them dig deeper. Speaking of losing your mind, up next is Pixies with the opening line from Where Is My Mind? I'm sure you've already heard it 100 times, but let's make it 101.
With your feet on the air, your head on the ground.
What an opening line to a song that is. The story goes that the singer Francis was out snorkeling in the Caribbean and a fish was chasing him and he was freaking out. Now you might ask, does a line about a skirmish with a fish really belong here? But there is more than meets the fish's eye. It flips the head in the clouds, feet on the ground metaphor on its, well, head to depict a man who's disoriented, not just physically, but mentally, with him not being grounded as he's lost his mind. With the feet in the air and head on the ground, I assume in swimming away in a panic, at one point he had his feet in the air, with his head facing the ground. In this position, his mind isn't where it normally is. You could say he's overreacting, but you try solving a puzzle whilst doing a handstand. The line that comes after is almost as good.
You have a collapse if there's nothing in it.
It's about the importance of keeping your mind occupied. If you don't, you'll lose your mind. You get to the point of there being nothing in it when you isolate yourself too much. So, know when you've processed enough and move on, as any more thinking will just make it worse. It won't literally collapse your head, but still. Up next is George Harrison with the song Circles. It was going to be on the White Album, but they thought his song Piggies was better. Anyway, that LSD-influenced decision aside, let's get to the line.
When loss and gain and up and down comes the same, then we stop going in circles.
With this line, George has moved past seeing life as a game of winning and losing, done with living in the same emotional loops. He realises that both have a commonality and that they share a temporal nature, i.e. they won't last forever. They'll all pass, as he would say, so best to get off the cyclical loop of life and the constant tug-of-war of duality. However you choose to live, it's a cycle, and so by definition it comes back around, it's not a straight line. Likewise, with George's line, you stop going in circles once you realise the interconnectedness of loss and gain. Anyway, conscious that I'm veering into the spiritual too much, I'll leave it there. At number 7, it's Kate Bush's song Moments of Pleasure. You'll be relieved to know it's straightforward, no metaphors to be found, so I'll let it play us out. Here it is.
Just being alive, it can really hurt. And these moments given are a gift from time.
Thanks for watching, and if you want to see any of my other lyric breakdowns, check out this playlist here. See you next time.